Welcome to episode 6 of Celtic Sagas and Lore. I'm your host, Martin Von Watkin. In this episode, I'd like to do a bit about werewolves and other were-creatures in the Celtic world. Now, Europe in total has a tradition of were-beasts as such, but the archetypal werewolf that gives rise to the Hollywood version, the Celtic ones are very different. In the European ones, they are normally, as the archetypal Hollywood type, they are vicious, evil, eat you, and etc. The Celtic ones are not the man-wolf type creature. They are wolf-like, as in a wolf, and they don't tend to come out in full moons, although most stories they are night creatures. And if they are injured or killed, you don't need silver bullets. Normal weapons can do them harm. Ireland has the greatest concentration of werewolf type creatures. The recordings of them, mainly with the Irish kings, they would call for their aid in times of war. Now, the Celtic wolves and creatures, they are mainly just do their thing and wolf thing, and they only become apparent in the mythological lore when humans interact with them. And one such story is that of Connor and the Wolf. Now, Connor was a farmer in Ireland, and he had two cows in his field. And he came out one morning, and the fence had been knocked down, and they had wandered off. So Connor went to look for them, and he spent all day going across the hills, and he couldn't find them anywhere. Then, as it was getting dark, he thought he'd never make it back and home in time before it got dark, and it would be better to find somewhere to spend the night. Then he noticed a light coming from a cottage. So he walked up to the cottage and knocked on the door, and a male voice said, "Come in, Connor, we've been expecting you." So with some surprise, he walked into the small cottage, and there was a grey-haired old man there. He said, "Welcome," he said, "the wife's just done some food now, and sit down and have some food, and you can spend the night." And he looked over, and there was an old woman in the corner stirring a pot of stew. And she looked, well, the best way we would describe her as in the wolf in Grandma's bed in the Red Riding Hood sagas, with sharp teeth and piercing eyes. So he was a bit on edge, as you can imagine. Then there was a knock at the door, and he opened the door, and a wolf was standing there. And the wolf walked in, looked at Connor, walked into the adjacent room, and then a young man came out, and he said, "Oh, this is my son." The boy smiled and nodded and said, "Good to see you again, Connor." He thought, okay. Then there was another knock at the door, and opened the door, and there was another wolf standing there. And again, the wolf came in past the old man and walked in the adjacent room, and again, another young man, a slightly younger one, came out, and he looked with Connor, and with daggers, and hostile but yet still hospitable. And they sat round. So with this, now Connor thought, right, okay, I'm staying here, I'm going to get eaten. So he was about to make his excuses and about to leave. The eldest of the young men said, No, wait, he said, there's nothing to fear here, you're going to be okay. He said, "We're just returning the kindness." And Connor said, "Sorry, I don't know what you mean." He says, "Do you remember many, many years ago, you were out walking back from the market, and I saw a young wolf caught in some brambles, and he was yelping, and you went up and you helped him, helped the wolf cub to get out of the brambles, and it was an act of kindness." And Connor said, "Yeah, I remember," and the wolf licked my hand. He said, "Yeah, I was that wolf." The old man said to him, "See, and we know you're looking for your missing cows, and we'll help you. So Connor, and you are safe here, there's nothing to worry about." So Connor, they showed him to a bed, and he had some food and then went to sleep. And he woke up in the morning, he was lying on a hillside covered in bracken. And he thought it must have been a dream. So he wandered back to his farm, and when he got there, he was half expecting to go back and saw the fence was still down. His cows would be found. He thought, oh yeah, it must have been a dream. So as he was trying to mend his fence, he noticed in the field that there were 4 cows. He thought, oh, they must have escaped from O'Reilly's farm across the hill. So he was trying to herd them out. And a wolf appeared at the gate. And as the cattle were trying to leave, the wolf would yap and bark at them, and the cows wandered back into the field. And then the wolf transformed itself back into the eldest of the young men and said, these are a gift for you, he said. And they are the finest cows in Ireland, and I'm just repaying the debt. With that, he turned back into a wolf and ran off. So Connor kept the cows, and they became the finest herd in Ireland, and he became quite wealthy off the progeny of the cows. And that's one story of the typical story of the Irish werewolf tradition, but there are other werebeasts as well. There are stories of a cat, dog, stag, but mostly of hares, and normally there's a witch that turns into a hare, and there's various stories about them which we'll cover in later episodes. But there's, as you know from these episodes, I do like to find the unusual standout stories, and there's one which I found quite interesting. It's about a man called Cadwallader, and unlike other shapeshifter stories of animals, this one involves a nanny goat, which is quite unusual. Now, stories with rams are quite common, but this is, as far as I know, the only example of one with a nanny goat. Now, where these stories probably come from is from some totemistic tradition going right back. And this story involves Cadwallader, and he had a goat, and he was very fond of this goat. Now, that's what it says in the text, so what do you make of that is, well, I'll leave it to your imagination, but he was very fond of this goat. He came out one morning and he noticed that the fence was down again like a corner. So he saw hoof prints going off, so he followed them, and the hoof prints went, and he started to get a bit annoyed. And he saw his goat, that they called Jenny, up on a hillside. So he ran up and he was calling and calling, the goat would not come. So in his anger, he threw a stone at the goat, which hit it. One in a shot million hit the goat in the side of the head, and it lost his footing and fell down the side of the cliff. So he climbed down, and he was so sorry. But when he got to the bottom, there wasn't a goat there, but a young woman. And she said, oh, at last, Cadwallader, my love, you've come. He said, I've always loved you, I'm sorry. And he thought she was dying. Now, this is common amongst Celtic werebeasts or shapeshifter stories, whatever you want to call them, that when a were animal is injured, it reverts back to its more vulnerable human state, and any injury that is sustained is there. Like, for example, in most of the witch stories, a hand stroke paw is severed, and that is what's found. So he helped with that. We're back to the story of Cadwallader and Jenny. They heard bleating coming from the top of the hill, so the two of them walked up to the top of the hill, and they were heard of a flock of goats there, and there was one billy goat standing out, and it headbutted Cadwallader in the stomach, and he fell down, lost his footing, and rolled down the hill, and he was knocked out cold. And when he woke up in the morning, there was no sign of Jenny the nanny goat or any of the other ones, and he sadly went home. So I hope you enjoyed that story, and I'll be doing more on shapeshifter animals and their totemistic stroke magical properties. There's the one of Giton Bach and Ceridwen, which is probably the most famous one, and including the most animal shapeshifting changes stories as well. So I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'll hope to see you in episode 7. Again, if you have any messages or queries, just feel free to message me on www.martin-the-druid.webs.com. Again, if you've liked the page or the YouTube channel, thanks very much. If not, you're more than welcome to do so, and if you would share them as well, that'd be fantastic. And thanks for listening.